I want to start today off with a simple question. When was the last time someone actually taught you how your emotions work? And I'm not talking about how to hide them or how to ignore them. I'm not talking about how to just think positive either. When is the last time that someone really taught you why you feel the things that you feel? Just think about it. We spend years in school learning math and science and history and English. And we learn how to solve all these equations and write essays and we learn all these formulas. But nobody ever spends the time to teach us why we replay conversations over and over again in our head, or why we miss people who hurt us in the first place, or why anxiety can just completely take over on an ordinary day and how one small thing or moment can change our moods for hours or days at a time. And so, because of that, I think most of us grow up believing that something is wrong with us. Maybe we're too emotional or honestly just bad at handling life in general. And I don't honestly think that that's true. I think nobody ever handed us the instruction manual for your emotions. And that's why I started the Emotional Support Club because my hope is that this can be the class many of us never had. This is supposed to be a place where we stop judging ourselves and we start understanding ourselves. So today I want to teach you one simple idea through 3 different lessons. And if these lessons really click, I think you'll begin looking at your emotions in a completely different way. The first lesson is this: your emotions are information. And most people think emotions are the problem because we treat anxiety like it's the enemy, and sadness like it's our weakness, and anger is something we should always be quick to get rid of. But emotions are much more like signals than they are problems. Think about the dashboard that's on your car. If the gas light comes on, you don't get angry at the dashboard. You understand that it's pointing out or it's pointing to your attention towards something that's important. Now, your emotions kind of work in much of the same way. Fear will tell you that something feels uncertain, right? Sadness reminds you that something mattered. Anger can point towards a boundary that feels crossed. And joy tells you that you're experiencing something meaningful. Now, that doesn't mean every emotion is automatically correct. It simply means every emotion is worth listening to before you decide what to do with it. Does that make sense? The goal isn't to stop feeling. The goal is to become curious enough to ask, what is this emotion trying to tell me? And once you start asking that question, everything begins to change. The second lesson is that your brain tells stories long before it knows the truth. Now, this is something every single one of us does. Imagine you send someone a message, a few hours pass and they don't reply. That's all that's actually happened. They just didn't reply. But your brain doesn't like unanswered questions, so it immediately starts filling in the blanks. Maybe they're upset with me. Maybe I said something wrong. Maybe they don't want to talk to me anymore. Now, what's interesting is that none of those things are actually facts. They're just stories. And yet, once we believe those stories, our emotions will start to respond as if they're completely true. And that's why two people can experience the exact same situation and have completely different emotional reactions. One person assumes that everything is fine, and the other assumes that the relationship is completely falling apart. The event is identical, but the story is different. Most of the emotional pain we experience doesn't come from the event itself. It comes from the meaning our minds assign to that event. And I said all of that to bring me to the third lesson. And I honestly think this is the one that has changed my life the most. Just because you feel something doesn't automatically make it true. You can feel rejected without actually being rejected. You can feel like you're failing while you're actually making progress. And you can feel unloved while there are people who care deeply about you. Now, our emotions deserve our attention for sure, but they don't get to be the final judge of reality. And instead of immediately believing every feeling, try becoming more curious about it. The next time you notice yourself getting overwhelmed, I want you to pause for a second and ask yourself three simple questions. One is, what happened? What story did my brain create about what happened? And lastly, what emotion showed up because of that story? Now, those three questions create a little bit of space between you and your emotions, and that space is super important because it's where emotional control begins. And the truth is, emotional strength isn't about never feeling anxious or sad or frustrated or hurt. Emotional strength is about understanding those feelings well enough that they stop making every decision for you. Now, before we move on to the next thing, I want to leave you guys with one small assignment. For the next 24 hours, don't try to change your emotions. Don't try to fix them. I want you guys to just practice noticing them, noticing what you are feeling. Every time you feel something strongly, stop for a moment and ask yourself those same three questions. What happened? What story did my brain create? And what emotion is showing up because of that? And I truly think that you might be surprised by how often your brain actually will fill in the blanks without you realizing it. And usually it's going to fill it in with something negative. And so this is going to give you guys the opportunity to fill it in with something positive. If there's one thing that I hope you take away from this lesson, it's that your emotions aren't proof that something is wrong with you, but more often than not, they're simply just trying to tell you something. And the more you understand them, the less they control you. See you guys in the next video.